Basara's world is pure chaos, half epic battles, half forbidden pleasures. Every time Mio or Yuki's curse flares up, it pulls him into steamy moments that blur the line between survival and desire. But behind every moan and every heated touch lurks a bigger threat: demons, gods, and traitors waiting for him to slip. The closer he gets to his stepsisters, the stronger his forbidden power becomes, and the closer the world teeters on collapse. If you're into epic fights, wild fan service, and non-stop chaos, hit that sub, drop a like, and let's dive in. The epic showdown between Demon Lord Leohart and Jin, Basara's dad, kicks off. After just a few moves, even Leohart has to admit that Jin really lives up to his title as War God. Realizing he's in for a real fight, Leohart finally takes things seriously and brings out his divine sword to launch a massive attack on Jin. The force of the strike is so intense that it topples one of the nearby towers. What's surprising is that Jin chooses to save a random demon who's about to plummet to his doom along with the falling debris. Eventually, he manages to slip away while the smoke is still thick in the air. Back at school, Basara is daydreaming again and blushes when Hasegawa gets a bit too close. He's ready to teach a couple of troublemaking seniors a lesson when Hasegawa steps in. It's wild how her mere presence leaves those delinquents totally spellbound. At her command, they follow her away like they're under a spell. Meanwhile, another male teacher, Sakazaki, takes this opportunity to sow doubts in Basara's mind. He implies that Hasegawa is shady and claims she uses magic to charm people into obeying her. On another note, Mio and Yuki remember being approached earlier by the mysterious Yahiro. He wanted to have a final chat before heading off for a bit. To put it simply, he warned them about the worst-case scenario. If Basara lost control, his banishing shift could go out of hand and cause major problems. In that kind of situation, their weakness wouldn't just put their group of friends at risk. It could endanger the whole world. So Yahiro told both girls to keep pushing themselves in their insane training regimen to get stronger. If they didn't, the world as they know it could fall apart the moment Basara loses control of his crazy powers. Both Yuki and Mio take Yahiro's words to heart, maybe a little too seriously. Later that night, Basara gets cornered by a bunch of manipulated humans. He struggles to fight them since he's not the type to hurt innocent people, especially when they're under someone else's control. Luckily, Kurumi suddenly shows up and saves him. Turns out the village elders decided Yuki alone wasn't enough to watch over Mio, so they sent her little sister as backup. The two then fly off together, though he stays frustrated at failing to figure out who's pulling the strings in the shadows. Later that evening, the moment he opens the door, he sees two cuties in dog costumes lying right at the doorstep. Before he can even process what's happening, they pounce on him and start licking his toes. As expected, the intimate session powers them up, just like they planned. Only afterward do the girls realize that Kurumi has been watching. Her jaw hits rock bottom. Still unable to process the lewd things her elder sister Yuki and Mio have been indulging in lately, Mio, embarrassed to be caught by Kurumi in such shameful acts, slips away with tearful eyes. On the contrary, the cunning and mischievous Maria uses the opportunity to tease Kurumi, suggesting she should become one of Basara's contracted partners too. Unable to stand being mocked as a naive child who knows nothing of adult matters, Kurumi foolishly agrees to be put under Maria's succubus spell, though only temporarily. The spell immediately overwhelms Kurumi with arousal, giving Basara no choice but to dominate her the way he usually does with the others. This time, however, Yuki joins in as well, using the opportunity to discipline her cheeky little sister. Afterward, when Basara is alone with Maria, he hugs her tightly. He brushes aside her teasing, declaring instead that he only wishes to cherish her presence, since she is the glue that keeps everyone together. Later that night, a gloomy Basara stands alone on the rooftop, troubled by the mysterious puppeteer targeting him. Of course, he's prepared to fight back against anyone who dares threaten him or the girls in his care. The next day, Basara and his crew head to the school sports festival, staying super alert. With so many people packed in the stadium, it's the perfect spot for the puppeteer to make a move. They know they can't let their guard down, so they've got some tricks up their sleeves to spot anything shady. Kurumi, for example, calls up some air spirits that are totally invisible to everyone else to help her keep an eye on things. But another student, Tachibana, instantly spots her spirits. His glowing red eyes tell a different story. For the moment, though, Tachibana just watches and waits instead of jumping into action. Meanwhile, Basara dives into all the sports activities like the mixed-gender obstacle course, and unsurprisingly, wins at everything he tries. His male classmates are not too happy about it, constantly grumbling about him snagging the attention of two of the school's biggest heartthrobs. Later, when Hasegawa comes over to congratulate him, Basara just gives her a pretty dry response, seeing her more as the mysterious foe he's been dealing with lately. Then things take a wild turn when one of the seniors gets hypnotized during the festivities. He suddenly starts causing chaos, summoning crushing hurricanes all over the place. Basara and Kurumi have to team up to handle the unexpected mess. Basara uses his banishing shift to wipe out all those tornadoes while Kurumi goes straight for the source, taking down the senior who's been controlled into unleashing all that havoc. Poor Basara doesn't even get a moment to catch his breath before Tachibana jumps him out of nowhere. It doesn't take long for Basara to figure out that Tachibana is a vampire, what with those ridiculously long pointy nails and all. At first, he thinks this super speedy and dangerous guy is behind the chaos at the stadium, but then he starts to second-guess himself when Tachibana keeps whining about how hero types just won't leave him alone, no matter where he tries to hide. There's no way the tearful kid in front of him is the one pulling the strings on this brutal attack. This realization freaks Basara out because it means Tachibana was just meant to distract him, nothing more. Anyway, he quickly knocks out the vampire and hurries off to find Mio. Eventually, he runs into Hasegawa, who blocks his way and won't let him continue searching for his stepsister. So, in a fit of anger, Basara goes all out and attacks the mysterious school nurse. What surprises Basara is how Hasegawa manages to stop his powerful attack with just her bare hands. This definitely shakes up his confidence, making him wonder if he can actually take down someone who seems so unbeatable. Just then, another teacher, Sakazaki, swoops in and puts a barrier around Hasegawa to slow her down. Basara takes the chance to make a run for it with Sakazaki because he knows a simple barrier spell won't hold the deadly school nurse for long. Once they're a good distance away from Hasegawa, Sakazaki starts talking trash about her, saying she's been trying to take over the academy behind the scenes. He even claims that she purposely teamed Basara up with Tachibana, hoping he'd get shredded by the vampire's claws right out of the blue. At first, Basara seems to have fallen for Sakazaki's words, but it doesn't take long for Sakazaki to be left dumbfounded when Basara suddenly tries to slash him apart. Now that he's figured things out, Basara calls Sakazaki his real enemy, the one behind all the chaos. You'd think Basara's dad, Jin, would have warned him about someone as dangerous as Hasegawa if she was really a threat to his kids. After all, Jin is a war god, so there's no way someone like Hasegawa could hide from him. But here's the kicker. Jin hasn't mentioned Hasegawa at all. The clues lead to a pretty clear conclusion. The mysterious school nurse isn't the enemy she seemed to be. It's actually the sneaky, manipulative Sakazaki trying to turn Basara against his friends. Once that theory hits home, Sakazaki finally spills his true intentions of wanting to hurt both Mio and Basara. Then he transforms, revealing he's actually a powerful god Ornis from another realm. The deal with these hero clan folks is that they're pretty much just loyal servants for the gods. So naturally, Basara is expected to bow to Sakazaki and beg for mercy when he finds out the guy's true nature. But things don't go Sakazaki's way again because Basara isn't in the hero clan anymore and doesn't owe any respect to the deities. Still, he decides to protect his siblings, even if it means he might end up getting killed by these powerful gods. With that in mind, Basara charges into battle, ready to take on the deity in front of him. But then things take a turn for the worse when Ornis opens a portal and pulls out the unconscious Kurumi, revealing he had taken her hostage as his last move against Basara. This time, Ornis gets what he planned, catching Basara off guard and cutting off one of his arms. And Basara is lying on the ground as Ornis gets ready to take him out. All of a sudden, some mysterious force shoots out from Basara, hitting Ornis. The attackers rush in to try and hold him down, but it's like he's wrapped in a ton of chains. Just then, Hasegawa shows up and calls out to Ornis. He responds with some insults, calling her a fool. Hasegawa fires back, calling him an idiot for breaking the seal on Basara's Valkyrie, Brynhildr, which she says is the reason he's lost control. Ornis brushes off her warning and tries to exploit Basara's struggle to control his power. Hasegawa tells Ornis that she's backed by other gods, so she can harness her own powers to protect Basara. She gets ready to confront him, stating that Basara is the only proof that her mom is still alive, which is why she's determined to protect him and take down Ornis if she has to. Then, Hasegawa turns her attention to Basara, who's still out of control. She taps into her powers to calm him down, stabilizing his mind and calming the chaos inside him. Once he's cooled off, she mentions that she'll wipe the memories of everyone who saw what went down and change their memories so Basara will never discover his true origins or that he has two moms. A little time later, Basara chats with Tachibana and tells him he's no longer part of the hero clan and has no plans to fight anymore. After that, he heads home and starts thinking back on the fight against Ornis. feeling grateful for the way he was protected during it. While he's alone in his room, Mio, Yuki, Maria, and Kurumi come in together. Maria starts scolding Kurumi, which triggers Maria's curse, leading to another awkward moment for Kurumi. Basara steps in to comfort her afterward. Not long after, Maria's older sister Lucia shows up with an invite from the moderate faction, asking Maria to come to the Demon Realm. While that's happening, things are heating up in the Demon Realm. Leohart and his crew stumble upon an old machine, and the council starts talking about using it to take out the moderates. Leohart isn't on board with that, and says he wants to face the council head-on instead of using some machine. Then Gald steps up, ready to lead an attack on the council, but Balfleer sticks with Leohart, pledging to protect him and help carry out a more direct plan. They start brainstorming strategies, discussing ways to push the council into taking action first. Yahiro suggests that stealing Mio's power might be a good way to provoke them, especially since Mio will be in the Demon Realm soon. Meanwhile, Lucia meets up with her master, Ramusis. She tells him that Klaus and some nobles are rallying supporters of the former Demon Lord to strengthen their own ranks. After that, Lucia goes home and fills everyone in that Ramusis is actually the brother of the former Demon King, which makes him Mio's uncle. With this new info, they decide it's smart to head to the Demon Realm and meet up with Ramusis's crew to gain some allies. Mio is a bit hesitant about the whole plan and isn't sure about stepping into the Demon Realm. But with Basara and the others cheering her on, she finally comes around to the idea. Once she makes up her mind, she reaches out to Lucia to let her know she'll join them on their trip. Together, they get ready to head to the Demon Realm to seek out Ramusis's moderate faction for support. The group arrives at the castle that once belonged to Wilbert and now belongs to Ramusis. They are surprised by its beauty and the quiet surroundings. Basara quickly asks Lucia to set up a meeting with Ramusis. They are told he isn't around. Instead of getting comfortable rooms, they end up stuck in a filthy one. During dinner, Zest shows up. She is working as a maid in the castle now, and everyone feels relieved seeing her safe. Later, Sheila makes her entrance. She shows her ability to move through space tunnels and reveals that she serves as Ramusis's personal maid. The mood turns lighthearted, and laughter fills the room. But Maria quietly slips away without saying anything. Lucia later approaches Maria and tells her that Ramusis ordered her to punish her for her past actions against Zolgir. Just as she is about to carry it out, Basara steps in. He uses Sheila's space tunnel to appear and stop her. He pleads for Maria not to be punished and agrees to take responsibility instead. This ends in a comical rebuke that leaves Maria irritated, especially because of the curse she receives from Lucia. Kurumi arrives in the middle of it and sees what is going on. She runs in, worried. Lucia decides to punish her too, giving her a baptism the same way. Basara jumps in again to protect her from more punishment. Lucia insists that he take responsibility once more, which leads to another awkward and unusual scene. Later, when they return to the others, everyone asks why it took them so long to come back. After that, Basara starts helping Kurumi increase her strength. Lucia watches them and notes that Kurumi has now gained a friend. Soon, the group meets Lord Klaus. He introduces himself as an ancient demon who once served as King Wilbert's strategist. After recognizing them, he apologizes for the shabby room earlier and arranges for them to move into a better one. Klaus goes on to explain the current state of the Demon Realm. He talks about the conflict between Leohart's faction and the conservatives who still support the late King Wilbert. While he speaks, demons around them notice Mio. They celebrate her arrival, calling her the daughter of Wilbert. The group then explores the Demon Realm. They see that it looks similar to their own world, but filled with demonic particles. Because of this, the hero's power is cut in half. At a cafe, they sit and have tea together. During this, Zest separates from the group to avoid trouble. She ends up confronted by soldiers who insult her for once serving Zolgiar. Basara steps in to defend her. He helps her get away before things get worse. When she comes back to the group, they notice her heel is damaged. Basara carries her back so she doesn't have to walk on it. As evening falls, they return to the castle. This time, Ramusis finally appears. His presence immediately grabs attention and leaves a strong impression. Inside, the group is given proper rooms, with each girl having her own. Kurumi thinks about the protective amulet Lucia gave her to safeguard Maria. As she reflects on it, Maria visits her room and starts teasing her, leading to a playful moment. Meanwhile, Mio is assisted by Noelle, a maid who grew up with her in the past. Mio takes the chance to ask her about Yahiro. Elsewhere in the castle, Ramusa stands outside, gazing at the moon. Basara approaches him and asks for a chance to speak with him directly. Basara stands face to face with Ramusas, calling him out for planning to use Mio's powers, even if it puts her in danger. He challenges Ramusas's right to rule the demon realm under those conditions. Ramusas, all cold and unbothered, tells Basara that it's Mio's duty to accept her fate, no matter the cost. He mentions some old agreement, but totally ignores Basara's right to have a say about who runs the demon world. Angry, Basara gets ready to whip out his sword, but Lucia and Sheila jump in to stop him from making things worse. The meeting ends with a lot of tension hanging in the air. Later on, Sheila goes to the bath with the other girls, and Zest joins them too. While they're there, Basara grabs a moment to talk to Zest, asking her to stick around if things in the demon realm start to go south. During their chat, Zest starts feeling like a burden, and her curse starts acting up. Even though she's stressed, Basara manages to calm her down and keep things steady. Meanwhile, chaos breaks out in the city as a violent battle kicks off. Guards are clashing with monsters, and Zest sends her puppets into the fight as well. Everything escalates quickly, and Basara rushes to join in. Mio, Noel, and the rest watch from a distance as Basara faces off against Gald. He goes all out, matching Gald's incredible strength. As the fight gets more intense, Mio remembers Basara's promise that they'd always fight together. Determined not to sit on the sidelines, she decides to step in. Basara pushes through and lands a huge hit, seriously injuring Gald. But just then, a strange light floods the battlefield. This light unleashes massive destructive energy, causing chaos all around. As the dust settles, Basara ends up burned and badly hurt, collapsing next to Mio. Nebra and Belphegor are up to no good, and plotting to steal Mio's powers. But Nebra takes it a step further. She wants to wipe everyone out to really get the Council's wishes done. The fight is heating up with Basara and Zest teaming up against Gald, but things are getting rough for the human fighters. It's becoming too much for them to handle. Mio, tired of sitting on the sidelines, jumps in to help. She remembers Basara's promise to always have her back and takes action. Gald tries to launch a deadly attack, but out of nowhere, a bright beam of light cuts through the battlefield, hitting both him and Basara hard. Amidst all the chaos, Ramusas decides to step in. He's not on board with Leohart gaining more power through these crazy plans, so he casts a gravity spell to protect Mio, shielding her from the blast. Thanks to him, Mio finally gets a chance to make a run for it. She soon runs into Nebra, and they end up in a fight. Mio manages to take Nebra down, but just as she's getting defeated, Nebra detonates her own powers. Ramusas jumps in again, using another spell to shrink her down and contain the explosion. But Nebra isn't done yet. She activates a self-destruct spell. Everyone braces for the blast, but they're determined to confront her again. In the final moments, Mio pushes forward and defeats Nebra one more time. Just when Nebra tries to spill her true plans and unleash her last move, her body gives in to her own curse, and the spell takes her out completely. With Nebra gone, Mio's immediate danger is over, but the battle takes a toll. Basara is still hurt. Mio stands her ground, and Ramusas keeps an eye on everything. The aftermath leaves a mess behind, and hints that greater conflicts are still on the horizon. Mio says goodbye to Klaus, thanking him for his warm welcome, but telling him she wants to live as a human instead of inheriting her father's position. The city is rebuilt, and Ramusas tells Lucia that the mission to take power away from her is suspended because of the changes in circumstances. Just as the group is about to leave the kingdom, Jin suddenly appears, shocking everyone. On the other side, Gald tells Leohart about the dimensional fluctuations caused by Basara's power. He also senses Brynhilder's presence. She sets off a supersonic whirlwind that overwhelms him, and he ends up losing. Leohart tells him to rest, but as Gald leaves, he realizes how strong the others are and how hard it will be to defeat them. At that moment, Leohart's sister Layla appears. She senses something is off and suggests they do their usual nightly routine. Later, they train together. Layla attacks playfully, but her power destroys part of the road where Yahiro is standing. Seeing her strength fills him with fear. Later, Leohart announces a 7 versus 7 battle where the winner will decide the demon world's fate. Ramusas tells Jin he must accept it, even though Jin warns it could be a trap by the council and the price might be millions of lives. They talk about how Ramusas thought Leohart was manipulable, which is why the council chose him. But Jin mentions that even though he was at the crime scene, he never found Zafira. Suddenly, Sheila appears. She tells them that Zafira is clearly not in the demon world and says they should focus on the coming competition instead. Meanwhile, our boys are in the shower. Basara lifts Mio's curse. Ramusas tells Jin he won't leave everything to them. Jin replies that he will train them to ensure victory. The next day, training begins. Basara struggles to attack his father even while trying to outwit him. Jin teaches him about deceiving enemies, throwing him onto a rock before telling him they can rest. While he rests, Hasegawa explains Leoheart's fighting abilities, but she assures him that if he thinks carefully and shows his strongest side, he can defeat him. Jin makes obstacles and wants to teach Basara a harsh lesson. He unleashes his full power, strong winds bursting from his body, telling his son not to back down. Meanwhile, the girls train under Sheila. Mio wants to control Wilbert's powers. Sheila tells her she must first understand her strengths before she can control them. To show an example, she casts a curse on all the girls. After eating some candy, they manage to calm down. She then says she has made a pill to lift the curse, but warns them that the closer they get to Basara, the harder it will be to restrain themselves. Suddenly, the ground shakes. They realize a powerful force is coming from the forest. Kurumi transports them there, where they find Basara injured from training with Jin. The destruction makes Yuki remember the tragedy in the village. Jin wakes his son and tells him he won't go all out unless he accepts that gaining power comes at the risk of his life. He asks him what he felt in the moment he thought he might die. Basara remembers his only thought was protecting the girls. Jin tells him to keep that feeling and regain it. He then releases a stored charge attack, the same move he used in the village. Basara panics, but his father calms him down. Jin explains his power and talks about the 3 limiting factors. One is consciousness. The other is the hatred of virtue. Basara must release at least 2 limiters if he wants to defeat Leoheart. Jin reminds him that if they win, the moderates will force Mio to become queen, and if they lose their power. But there is also a third option, and Jin promises to support him if it comes to that. At last, Jin sits beside him and talks about his 2 mothers. Meanwhile, Yuki wants to see Basara, but hesitates. He stands on the castle roof, remembering his father's words about the limiter. Suddenly, he thinks of the girls, summons his sword, and unleashes an attack that Yuki senses from afar. The next day, he goes to Sheila and asks for her help. Finally, the team heads out for battle. Lucia tells Ramusa she will join them later. Leoheart waits on his throne. When Leoheart shows up, he spots the group right away, but then another demon named Belphegor, who's part of the council, struts in and takes charge of the battlefield. Leoheart is cool with it. Outside, Basara realizes that the council and Ramusas aren't exactly buddies, just like his dad warned him. While walking around, he runs into Yahiro, who asks him not to be too hard on him the next day. Later, back in their room, Basara tells the girls that their faction is rooting for them and reminds them he needs to free at least 2 of the limiters. Maria seems a bit worried, but does her best to keep everyone calm, while the other girls encourage him to be strong. Meanwhile, Belphegor is buffing himself up with some help from his crew, dead set on winning the game and taking millions of lives. The girls keep training with Basara. The next day, Ramusas takes Lucia and Noelle to Leoheart's castle. While the girls take a break, Mio sees Basara sneaking out. Later on, he meets up with Takigawa at a tavern and asks him to grab a specific perfume for him and spills his plan. Meanwhile, Yuki has this nightmare where all her friends have vanished, and she sees Basara with this crazy look in his eyes, ready to take her out. She wakes up all freaked out, and Kurumi notices her distress. Takigawa, wearing Yahiro's mask, gets the perfume for Basara and wonders what he's up to. That night, Mio catches him on the phone and asks if he's talking to his dad. He tells her they all need to chill out. She hugs him, and he reassures her to trust him no matter what. This leads to a pretty intimate moment where she asks him to keep being in control, and they share another embrace. The next day, as the game kicks off, Leoheart realizes the crowd is just a cover for the council to make a move. Mio steps up and says she's not fighting as Wilbert's daughter but as herself, and then jumps into the action. Right before things start, Leoheart gets a call from Madonis, who mentions that Belphegor has been missing since last night and that something seems off with one of the members. They suspect the Security Council is up to something. The battle starts, and Mio faces off against Luca, who calls in a heroic spirit. Even though Mio takes a solid hit, the heroic spirit regenerates and goes after her. Mio remembers Basara saying he'd left before the fight to handle something, but promised he'd be back. When the heroic spirit tries to take her out, Mio taps into her power and wipes him out in one shot, taking down Luca. After the fight, Maria gives Mio a shout-out, and then it's Maria's turn. Ramusas and his crew are watching everything go down, and Lucia's hoping Maria will really show what she's got. Maria jumps into her fight with Yahiro, and Zolgiar's servant Null sees the whole thing unfold, dropping his tea in shock and worry. Basara is lying on the ground, looking pretty out of it, maybe in pain or just knocked out from his earlier fight with Belphegor. The Demon Council is speculating that, because of the rules, he probably can't step onto the battlefield since only demon lords or their families are allowed there. But just like that, he's on the battlefield anyway. They think he might have used his banishing shift to sneak in. The announcer gets shut down by Leohart. When the match kicks off, Basara charges in using his speed and slashing to distract Leohart before trying to hit him from all sides. At first, Leohart is a bit thrown off, but he quickly gets the hang of it. Meanwhile, the Toujou family and Lucia are watching from the sidelines, and they're all anxious because he doesn't seem to be fighting like he usually does. Yahiro's wondering what kind of secret move he has up his sleeve. During another attack, Basara gets stopped by Leohart and ends up clutching his injury from earlier. Leohart, now unfazed, starts to come at him. Basara tries to pull off his special move by vanishing his sword and then whipping it out for a quick slash. But Leohart dodges it and tells him it won't work on him anymore and questions why he used it on Gald in the first place. In another part of the moderate faction area, Jin is catching some Z's in the woods when a woman asks him why he's not checking out his son's match. He shrugs and says Basara's chances of winning are only about 20% at best. After getting beaten by Leohart, Basara plummets straight into the lava on the battlefield. He's clutching a pill in his left hand, remembering the moment Sheila gave it to him, warning him that it would unleash his true powers, but he'd go on a rampage without control. Just before hitting the lava, he swallows the pill. Leohart thinks he's won and starts walking away, but after a few steps, he senses danger and halts. An awakened Basara rises from the lava, and the battle picks up again, but it's totally one-sided now. Leohart can't land a hit on him, and begins to take damage instead. However, he starts feeling the backlash of Basara's rampage as blood starts spraying from all over his body. The members of the Toujou household start to panic, and Mio rushes forward to help. Before Lucia can stop her, Yuki gets in the way, realizing that only Mio can step into the battlefield as the daughter of the former demon lord. When Mio gets to the battlefield, she gets caught up in the visions inside Basara's mind. Once she figures this out, she searches for his location in his mind and comes face to face with Zolgiar's memory. After taking him down, she finally reaches Basara, letting him attack her in his rampaging state. Just as his strike is about to hit, he halts himself with his left hand, busting the gauntlet on his arm instead of his sword. Still not fully back to normal, he rips her clothes and gives in to his desires. Basara and Mio finally land back on the battlefield, right in front of the kneeling Leohart. He offers a hand to help him up. Meanwhile, the council decides to pull out their big gun, the king of heroic spirits, Ornis. Ornis shows up, and Leohart starts explaining this legendary figure that commands all heroic spirits. Ornis sends out these spirits all over the demon realm to wreak some havoc. Lucia leaves the watchroom, saying she needs to be with Ramusas. One of the heroic spirits goes for the audience in the stadium, right near Yuki and Kurumi. An unnamed demon asks the council to step in and stop the heroic spirits, since Ornis just keeps summoning more of them. But the council brushes it off and ends up killing the demon instead. They figure as long as they're safe, nothing else matters. If the demon realm gets wrecked, they can just rebuild it. They see this as a test run before facing the gods and angels. When Ornis attacks Basara, Mio, and Leohart, they think it's game over for the trio, and that the rest of the heroic spirits will take down Ramusas too, solving all their problems. But then Basara activates his banishing shift power, and suddenly, Ornis's attack doesn't land. The council realizes they're in deeper trouble than they thought. Basara, Mio, and Leohart are holed up in a wrecked building trying to hide from Ornis, the king of heroic spirits. There's talk about making a run for it, but Leohart explains that Ornis rolls deep with a bunch of heroic spirits, and they need to take out the demon realm first. So they agree to team up and take him down together. Ramusas shows up too, using his powers to trap Ornis in a gravitational field. The four of them get ready to fight. While Ramusas keeps Ornis pinned, Leohart goes all out with distractions and attacks, Mio jumps in, and Basara states he's about to release all his limiters. He then pops the pills that Maria's mom gave him earlier, getting ready to unleash his full power. With a quick move, he sends Ornis into another dimension using his banishing shift in his awakened form, and he lets go of that form right after. Yuki and Lucia are gearing up to take on Admirath, who's out for their blood. They're standing next to Kurumi and Maria, who are getting some much-needed medical care. But before the fight even kicks off, Admirath goes and releases this nasty poison gas from his scythe, totally catching them off guard. Since Yuki's a hero, that gas hits her way harder, draining her strength. Once they can't keep going, Admirath moves in on Kurumi, planning to finish her off right in front of her sister. And then he sets his sights on Maria, intent on taking her down in front of Lucia. Just as he lunges at Kurumi, Maria suddenly wakes up and rips his hand off. She's furious that he went after Yuki and Lucia and tried to take Kurumi out in front of her. Kurumi wakes up too, and they both charge at him, Turns out they weren't affected by the gas earlier because they were rocking oxygen masks. Maria goes after him, and when he tries to swing at her, she chops off his other arm. Then she just gives him a brutal beatdown. Zest is in the arena taking on a bunch of heroic spirits, thinking it's all part of her duty to her master. She takes them down one by one, but they keep coming back. Even so, she keeps fighting, putting her faith in Basara and doing everything she can to back him up. Meanwhile, Noel tries to save a kid from the heroic spirits but ends up getting knocked out along with the kid. Just then, Yahiro shows up and takes care of business. He takes out the heroic spirit and saves them both. His mask gets smashed up in the process, but he doesn't grab another one. After making sure they're safe, he takes off. After witnessing the epic showdown between Leonhardt, Ramusas, Basara, and Mio as they take down Ornis, the Demon Council is totally shocked. But instead of admitting defeat, they decide to pull out their secret weapon. Right when they're about to make their move, Liala shows up and wipes out all the council members in one go. She calls for Jin, who steps out to chat with her about their shared goal of taking down the council. She refers to him as the war god. After they size each other up, she says she's not here to throw down. She mentions that his son has inherited his power, and when she proposes offing Basara, they both charge up for a battle but get interrupted by him showing up out of nowhere. Liala is caught off guard and can smell him. She also drops a hint that Yahiro is really into his plans, with Yahiro lurking behind the door at that moment. After that, she takes off, commenting on how he smells. Jin fills Basara in, saying Liala is Leonhardt's older sister and that she took out the council all by herself in an instant. Yahiro remembers the time before the match when he helped Basara get to the arena for his fight against Leonhardt. Ramusas and Jin are chatting about everything that's been going on. Ramusas mentions that with Belphegor out of the picture, the shady stuff going on in the council should chill out for a while, meaning no more trouble for now. He points out how Jin's son has completely changed the game in the demon realm just for his sister. Meanwhile, Liala, Leonhardt, and his crew are at Belphegor's place checking out the scene where his body is. Liala lifts the cover off him and gets a whiff of the smell. It's kind of like Basara's, which makes her realize he's a pretty dangerous dude. It seems like he took out Belphegor all on his own, so he had no real reason to fight Leonhardt next. Still, he went ahead and did it just to prove he's strong. And that's it. Basara survived demons, gods, and way too many training sessions that were definitely not in the school handbook. If you laughed, blushed, or said bruh even once, hit that sub button before Maria curses you into the next OVA. The next arc's only gonna get spicier.